Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're waiting for just a moment or two for folks to log in, and then we'll begin the presentation. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jasmine Marrow. I'm Director of Nonprofit Strategy here at GuideStar, and I'd like to officially welcome you to our session for prepping your GuideStar nonprofit profile for Giving Tuesday. All right, so there's just a couple of notes and reminders. First, we are recording today's event, so don't worry if you'd like to go back and review any of the conversation today. You'll receive an email within the next few days with a link to the slides and the recording from today's presentation. Next, we've blocked off time at the end of today's presentation to answer any of your questions. To submit a question, just look at the control panel on the side of the screen. You'll find a questions box, and there you'll just type in your question and send away. If you only see the questions header and not the box, select the arrow to the left to enable the box. Our hope is to answer all of your questions today during the event, but if we're unable to get to yours, please rest assured that we'll reach out to you directly and answer any questions. And before we get started today, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts. So we have Nico, our Director of Nonprofit Programs, and also Madeline Kardos, our Marketing and Communications Associate. I'm going to pass it over to Eva. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Really glad to be with you all today to talk a little bit about some exciting ways that we hope to save you time and have some confidence in getting ready for Giving Tuesday. So we will be talking about a few things. Number one, just a quick, for those of you who are new to Giving Tuesday, letting you know what that's about and some of the deadlines that are coming up. Next, we will talk a little bit about how specifically your GuideStar information, what you share with us, travels to many different partner platforms. And that's particularly important because while some folks come to GuideStar to look at your information, many more really see it in our partner experiences. And then finally, we will talk about how, some of the real logistics of how to claim your profile, how to earn a seal, how to put a donate button on your GuideStar profile, and we'll have a really lively demo from Madeline, kind of walking you through that and showing you how it works. So let's get started. First, a little bit about Giving Tuesday. It's a day of giving, so we all know about Cyber Monday and Black Friday. Well, this day was started by the 92nd Street Y, and it's really about giving in the community starting on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So it's coming up on November 27th, 2018. It's something that's been going a few years now, and it's a global day of giving that kicks off the giving season. There has been growing participation over time. It's really an international movement. There have been over $300 million raised online just in that single day as of last year. A lot of gifts and participation, a lot of social media attention that is mobilizing especially younger folks to give. So it's really exciting. Now, we at GuideStar also get some attention during Giving Tuesday, and by we, I really mean you all, because it's your profiles that people are coming to see. And so while on average we see maybe about 1,200 of sessions, website sessions per week, that number really skyrockets on Giving Tuesday. So referrals from Facebook last year went from 1,200 a week to 73,000. Now that's a little bit of a geeky statistic, but essentially what it means is that people, while on Facebook, are looking at nonprofits, clicking on information about nonprofits, and ultimately they're seeing your profile to find out more info. So that's why we're excited to share that. Now, let's talk a little bit about these deadlines that I mentioned. So today, obviously, we're sharing with you some of the tips for what you need to know and how to get ready. On November 11th is an important deadline. That's where any information that you've updated is getting shared with the many partners that I'll talk about next. So you want to make sure that your information is up to date by November 11th so that it goes out from GuideStar to those partners. And then obviously it will show up in those partner experiences by GivingTuesday and also beyond. You know, it's not just about that one day, it's about the giving season overall. So those are the deadlines that I'm hoping will kind of stick in your mind. Let's talk a little bit about this idea of the information traveling and what that really means. So GuideStar is a hub for information about nonprofits, especially U.S. nonprofits. And that information comes to us directly from you all, updating the profile, as well as from indirectly through the forms that you file with the IRS, which are public information. So those two sources are what populate the nonprofit profile on GuideStar. Now, why does this matter? You know, we obviously are trying to take the different sources of information and we're trying to help stakeholders make sense of them. So we organize them into a neat profile. People can look at a summary at the program section, financials, at operations. You know, if you've ever seen your tax form, it's a little bit of a mess. So it sort of takes that info and makes it more structured and more accessible for all the folks looking. So let's talk a little bit, you know, about GuideStar specifically. People come to our website directly and access this information. And let's just kind of frame how many. So I like to think a little about, you know, a person called Walter. That Walter probably stands for about 100,000 better informed, you know, donors, funders, researchers, potential volunteers. And so on GuideStar itself, there are about, you know, 9 million Walters coming to GuideStar every year to look at your information directly. But that's not the end of the story. So while GuideStar has a great audience, we really work hard to make sure that the information that you provide also goes many other places, and especially some of the newer giving experiences that have been, you know, growing over the last few years. And so let's talk a little bit about who those partners are. They're really, you know, a lot of interesting partners that we work with, and here's a selection of some of them. Some of them include big social platforms like Facebook. Others include new ways of giving while you're making other purchases like Amazon Smile and PayPal. A number of donation websites use GuideStar data like Network for Good or Just Give. And then also we work with a number of the national donor advised funds. So these are kind of aggregates of funds from donors where a donor might go individually into their Fidelity or Vanguard experience and then have access to information about nonprofits through that online experience. So that's just obviously a selection of some of our kind of larger partners that we work with. What that means is that your information isn't just for GuideStar users. It's really for millions of other users that access it through those platforms. And, you know, in some cases, we're aware of what some of those audiences are. For example, you know, high net worth donors through donor advised funds or individual donors on Facebook. And in other cases, it may be many more that we're not even able to track. So that's why this is so important. It's, you know, it's important to update your information and keep it up to date so that it really kind of powers those experiences. We also hope that it makes it a little easier. If you update it on GuideStar, that means that it is current within those other experiences. And then here I wanted to just show you some of the concrete ways that your information might be showing up, because they don't always shout, GuideStar profile, right? It's a little bit subtle how you might see this info. So, on Google, there's a link basically to GuideStar information. Within CrowdRise, what you see is a mission statement that's populated, and the text of that mission statement is on your profile, and then they, make it look as though it's part of CrowdRise when it shows up on that experience. Within Amazon Smile, there's a set of fields. When someone chooses to participate in that program, they're making a purchase, and they want to designate a small percentage of of that purchase to a nonprofit. They can select from lots of U.S. nonprofits, and your name and your mission statement and your address and so on is showing up there. Within Fidelity Charitable, a donor can click on a search experience, and actually, as of last year, once they start searching for nonprofits, essentially they'll be viewing your GuideStar profile. It will just be branded, under the kind of Fidelity Charitable brand, but it will be your basic profile that's showing up. So I wanted to kind of show that to you and then go a little bit into some interesting work that we're doing with a few new partners. So we're working with Charity Navigator this year. This is for the second year in a row, where we're basically plumbing some of the information from your GuideStar profile into the Charity Navigator experience. So specifically, organizations that have earned a 2018 Gold or a 2018 Platinum Seal of Transparency will have that information show up on Charity Navigator on their organization's profile. Charity Navigator is heavily visited by donors during giving season. They would like to check out, how a nonprofit is doing, and so that's really the audience that's coming to see that information. Last year, there were about 11 million annual visitors to Charity Navigator, and then about $45 million in donations enabled through the Charity Navigator giving basket. So it's a really exciting partnership because we feel like, Charity Navigator is doing some great work reviewing specifically the financial and operational performance of charities, but we're starting to share with them more the impact-related information. So the gold information is really about your goals and strategies for the difference you want to make, and platinum information is quantitative metrics that you track to talk about your success. So that's getting shared with donors in a large-scale way through Charity Navigator. I mentioned also, obviously, Amazon Smile. That is a growing and large program, and there, basically a basic snapshot of your organization is showing up. So your name, your location, year founded, your mission statement, what kind of organization you are, and some basic information about your programs. Facebook, obviously a huge platform itself. There you have your own individual Facebook page if you're a participant on that platform, and then you also are able to do some fundraisers through Facebook itself, and some of the basic information to allow an organization to do a fundraiser comes from the GuideStar profile. So that's what we're circling here and referencing. And then I do want to say that, these are definitely new ways of giving that are getting some real attention, and money is starting to, donations are starting to flow in that way. So this is highlighting a particular organization, Raíces, that works on the issues of, immigrants and separation of parents from their children. That was a big issue that hit the news in the summer. And as a result, Raíces, really very quickly raised a lot of money through their Facebook kind of campaign, and really mobilized a lot of people behind this issue. So you see some headlines kind of resulting for that organization. Obviously, we can't promise this kind of news, storm of success for every organization that participates, but it just shows that it can make a big difference when something is in the news, and then there's an easy way, a frictionless way to support a cause and to give. So, one of the things I wanted to just quickly say is, for those of you who don't know, guess what? You already do have a GuideStar profile. So it's not a question of whether you have one or not. The vast majority of U.S. organizations have one. There's a few cases for religious orgs where it's a little more complicated because you're not filing the same level of information with the IRS. But for the vast majority, you likely already have a profile on GuideStar. And I always suggest to people to basically take a look at it first, right? What is it saying about you? What's showing up? And if what you see on your profile is this kind of graphic here about better data starting here, what that means is that likely we only have the very bare bones information that comes from the IRS. And it doesn't have some of the important information about the work that you do, the measures of success, pictures and videos that really help tell your story. And so if you Google yourself on GuideStar, if you will, and you see only bare bones information, what that means is you haven't claimed your profile as an organization and you haven't added information to it. So that's something that we will tell you how to do next. A final note on when it's important. There are some really great work and new studies coming out pretty much every month about what motivates donors to give, how that's changing. And this is from a study by Fidelity Charitable with their kind of high net worth donors, talking about barriers to giving and what would motivate donors to give more. And obviously some of this is about the donor, changes to their financial situation. But the next biggest motivator would be greater insight into the impact of their giving. So it's really more about how the support they're providing is making a difference. What is the difference that an organization is making in its community? And then the final piece is the piece that I mentioned, the sort of new and exciting ways to give. So ways to mobilize campaigns on social media, using Amazon, or even at your local grocery store. The sort of the ways of giving are changing and people are interested in participating. I will briefly say that how would you know if your profile is up to date and really contains the information that is important for all those stakeholders that will be looking at it? And the way to look at, we provide basically a system that's not a rating. It is really a recognition of your organization's transparency, and it's also a way that you can kind of signpost or marker whether you're complete and up to date. So if you earn a bronze seal, you will have your basic information, including some basic program information, up to date so that a donor can find you. I mean, that's the basic idea. If you earn a silver seal of transparency, you do so by providing information about your financials, and that helps with the donor kind of trust piece. Are you managing your money well? And then the 2018 gold seal of transparency really begins to get to the heart of your organization's work. What are your programs and your goals and your strategies, and how do you think about whether you're successful or not? And it's text fields. It's a descriptive. It's a narrative that you're saying there. And then our newest seal of transparency is the platinum seal, and it really starts to get at how you show the difference that you're making, not just tell about it. So the show piece is really quantitative metrics that you get to select that reflect the way that you think about your progress and results. And it's a pretty flexible way of talking about that, and we'll go into that perhaps later in the call, how to achieve platinum. So again, think of these as your guidelines. Once you get to bronze, you're basically up to date. And then once you climb to the higher levels of transparency, you're sharing some of the more programmatic information about your organization. So this is a great time to perhaps ask you a question. I know that there's some questions coming in that my colleague has been able to field, but we'd love to get a little bit of a sense of your interest in the information that we presented, and it will help us guide our conversation next. So my colleague Madeline just launched the poll asking you basically to say, which of these platforms and the information that they need are you particularly excited to hear about? I'll give you just a moment more to hopefully participate in that, so you can be interested in Amazon Smile, Facebook, Charity Navigator, Network for Good, or something else that we didn't think of. And I see that over, I think 50% of folks have voted and are participating. Thank you so much for that. It's going great. Madeline, let us know when we should pause and take stock of the results. Oh, I see that we have closed the poll, which is great. So let's see how we can see the result here. Oh, I see that, you know, a healthy section of our audience, I think about 40%, really want to hear more about some of the way that information will go to Charity Navigator and how to make sure that that's up to date. The next one of interest is Facebook itself at 30%, and then Amazon Smile at 20%, and then there's a few folks who have an interest in the other networks specifically. So I think what this tells us is that we will try to make sure that we tell you not only about how to claim your profile and put in the bronze info, but that will hit some of the gold information sections and platinum. So Madeline, it would be great if you could take it away and help us get started on the demo.
Great, thank you, Eva. Here we go, just a second, folks. All right, there we go. Thanks for holding for a moment there. And thank you, Eva, for a wonderful explanation. So for my portion of today's event, I'm going to show you, first of all, how to claim your organization's profile. Then I'm going to do a live demo on how to earn a seal of transparency and how to add a donate button to your profile on GuideStar. Okay. So this is the beginning. You have a profile on GuideStar, but how do you gain access to it? Well, it's a fairly easy process. What you want to make sure you have on hand is your organization's employer identification number, otherwise known as EIN. Okay, step number 1. If you don't already have an account with GuideStar, you're going to go ahead and create one by going to www.guidestar.org and clicking that top right-hand button, Create Account. You'll be prompted to fill out a few web forms, and then you'll be on your way. If this is your first time creating an account, we do recommend that you use an email address associated with your organization. So for example, I would use mine, Madeline Kardos at GuideStar.org. That doesn't mean that you can't use a Gmail or Yahoo. We just highly recommend that you do use one associated with your organization. Okay. And if you already have an account with GuideStar, all you have to do is, yet again, go to our homepage and click Sign In, which is to the right of Create Account. All right, step 2 is to find your organization. You can either use your organization name, your EIN, or your headquarters. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that you verify your email address. So you're going to check your email, you're going to look for a link to confirm your account. All right, once you've gone into your email, you've verified, you've clicked that link, you're going to be directed to this web page. And what you're going to do is you're either going to click Update right there in kind of the middle of the screen, or Update Nonprofit Profile, which is located at the top of the web page in order to get started. All right, step number 4, we're almost there, guys. You're going to click the blue Get Started Now button, which will lead you, and I'm going to give it a moment to catch up here, it will lead you here. And this is the final step. So once you find your organization, a web form, such as this one, will appear on your screen. All you have to do is fill in the required fields with that little red asterisk next to it, such as your website, telephone is optional, and then check off the boxes at the bottom. Then click Submit Request. So the cool thing is, if you use an email address associated with your organization, you'll be approved instantly, which is really fun. If you don't have one, do not worry. If you have a Gmail or a Yahoo that you're using, what's going to happen is we just have to manually approve you, and it takes us about 1 to 2 business days to get back to you. So in that case, you'll get an email from us in 1 to 2 business days saying, yes, you are confirmed and you are ready to go. A couple of final notes. First of all, we do have a video tutorial on this exact process in case that was pretty fast. It's going to be, of course, included in the slides and recording of today's event, so you will get this after this event is over. Another final note is you can add as many managers to your profile as you want. There is absolutely no limit, In fact, we highly recommend you add as many managers as you need. And another best practice here is to please check your junk mail. Sometimes our emails get sent there, so if for some reason you're not seeing an email from us confirming that you now have access to your account, check your spam.
That's great, Madeline. And I want to just add that that's really a good overview of the practical steps. You know, it might feel like a lot. First, you got to create an account, then you got to, you know, claim your profile. Why all these steps? You got to get approved. I just want to say that, you know, one, it's important for us to make sure that we're kind of protecting the information that, you know, the reason you create an account is because we need to be able to get in touch with you. And second, we want to make sure you're not a robot. We want to make sure you're a real person. And then the piece around claiming a profile, we just want to make sure that the people who represent the organization are allowed to change the information and not someone else. And so, again, that's a kind of extra step that we try to take to make sure that those who are adding information are allowed to do so, are verified as being part of the organization. And so, please hang with us for these kind of logistic steps here, but it's important to make sure that we verify those things before your profile gets modified.
Thank you, Eva. Those are all very good points. So once you do have access to your profile, you go through this whole process, you can start updating it immediately. So what we're going to do next is a live demo where I'm going to show you exactly what you need to update your profile, earn a seal of transparency, and of course, make it stand out on our partner platforms that we just mentioned. In addition, along the way, I will show you how to add a donate button to your profile on GuideStar. So what I'm going to do is go to our website. You can just go to www.guidestar.org. This is our homepage. What you're going to want to do is make sure that you are signed in. So just like on the top right-hand corner here, if you see your name, you are signed in. If not, all you have to do is just click and make sure that you are signed in. Then you're going to click Update Nonprofit Profile. So you can get to this place at any point in our on our website. It's right here at the top, Update Nonprofit Profile. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Here we are, and you will be presented with this screen. You have two options here. They're secretly kind of the same link. You can either click your organization's name, or you can click Edit Form, and that will jump you straight into our system. All right, so this is our system, and this is how you add information to your profile. The first thing you're going to notice here is your organization name, and then this really cool little progress bar. So this will show you exactly where you are along the process to earning a seal of transparency and how much more you have to go. It's like a step system. So in order to get a silver seal, bronze has to be 100%. In order to get gold, both bronze and silver have to be 100%. And of course, in order to get platinum, bronze, silver, and gold all have to be 100%. So this is a really good way to check if you're like, why am I not at platinum? I've done everything. You can see exactly where you need to go and which section you need to complete. So be sure to use this. You can also see right here next to your organization name, it says platinum, and down below right here, it says exactly where you are as well. This also brings me to our kind of lighter navigation bar, quick nav tips for you guys before we dive in. This is the summary page, and it automatically opens for you. So it'll tell you, number one, what seal level you're at. Number two, for those of you who were interested in the exact fields we send to Amazon Smile, we do show you. Just know that if you get to a silver seal, that is all the information. It encompasses everything that we send to them. So we highly recommend you get to at least a silver seal to complete all of the fields that we send to Amazon Smile. Here's where you can assign those profile managers. So once you yourself are a manager to your profile, you have the power and the privilege to add more managers to your profile. So please do that. If you've got Franken Finance, patent programs that you want to add to your profile, you can do that. And then last but not least, once you have a donate button on your profile, you do get donation reporting that comes along with it. So you can see, who's been donating, when, how much, etc. A really fun note is something you'll see on the right-hand side here. we actually just implemented this. This is our little help center. If you guys are going through this process and you're confused at any point, you can always open up this little help center. You can find answers quickly and you can start conversations with our amazing support team. So just so you know, this is here for you. You're going to see this little blue dot follow me through the profile end here in case you're curious what that was. Okay, we're going to jump right into it. And because the majority of you are interested in Charity Navigator, I am going to spend a little bit more time on the gold and platinum seals. Don't worry, I will spend some time on bronze and silver as well, but just know, in case we don't cover all of the fields in bronze and all of the fields in silver, there are some handouts for you. If you look in your control panel, you'll see that section that says handouts. We've included a PDF with all of the fields required to earn a 2018 platinum seal, and a couple of resources for gold and platinum specifically. So do not worry in case we don't get to every single field. Okay, so I am going to jump right on into bronze. What you're going to do is you're going to use this kind of left-hand side drop-down menu here. You're going to open and expand the menu and then click the very first field. Whoop. Sorry about that. My computer's been a little wonky today. Something new each time. We'll give it a moment to think. Alrighty, and something to note is each level has a variety of data that you can enter, and not all of it's required. So what you're going to see is the required fields all have a red asterisk next to them, and the optional ones don't. So that's how you can tell the difference between what's required and what is not. Sorry about this, folks. Let me try this again. For some reason, it's giving me a little trouble today. Here we are. Okay, just a moment longer. Come on, computer, you got this. Has a lot of thinking to do. Okay, well, while it's thinking, I'm gonna open up the left-hand side here.
Do you want to share your screen?
Okay, there we go.
I'm gonna also try to log in. Did it?
It did, thank
yeah.
you. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know why my computer does not like me. I should probably treat it nicer. Good computer, thank you for opening. So this is the bronze seal. And what I was trying to say here was you can tell what's required by these red asterisks and what's optional. Of course, you're going to have to complete all the required fields to earn a seal, but please do take a look at the optional fields. You know, if you are known as, you know, an acronym or a phrase, for example, if you're better known as that, you want to make sure you have that included. So make sure when you're going through, you know, all the different fields here, you are looking at the optional ones, even if they don't have a little red asterisk next to them. Okay, I'm going to briefly touch each section here, particularly the ones that relate to Facebook and Amazon Smile, since most of you were interested in that, but I am not going to go through every single field because you can look at this later. But just know, bronze takes about 15 minutes to complete. It's about a dozen data elements, and it's very basic information that you can find pretty much on your website. All right, so the very important piece of information you're going to want to include is your organization name. Make sure it's spelled right. You know, if you do have a DBA, you want to make sure that's included as well, because that goes to all of our partners. Your primary contact, also very important. If someone were to reach out to your organization, who is the best contact? And so for us, it is our communications and outreach director, Jackie. Very timely for giving season here. Who is your fundraising contact? So if someone were to write you a check, you know, we don't want that going to Jackie. We need that to go to Aaron DeSandro. So if you want, you can specify who exactly, you know, checks and other sort of payments should be directed to within your organization. Next up, of course, this shows up on all, you know, most of our partner sites, in particular, Amazon Smile, Network for Good, Facebook, is your main address. So you definitely want to make sure that this is correct. If you have a physical address, you can include that. International address, you can include that. Your phone number, your fax number, and if you have an international phone number. Okay, I'm going to skip through this section here because I really want to focus on donation information. So this is to make sure that donations are routed quickly and efficiently to your organization from all of our partners. So we want to make sure we have your legal name correct, we have your EIN, your employer identification number, also correct. And if for some reason your address is different, then your payment address is different than your main address, you can specify that here. Ours is the same, so we've checked this box, but be sure to fill out this section if they're different. Okay, very briefly, there's leadership and staff information where you can, first of all, show who leads your organization, give them a little bit of history with a biography here. Options for a co-leader, other members of your staff, so we have all of our senior leadership team here. Your board chair, co-chair, if you have one, other members on your board. Okay, another very, very important section, particularly for our partners, is branding. So we send your logo to partners such as Google, Amazon, PayPal, and they're really looking for this. So be sure to take a look at these requirements. It's relatively small and the resolution's pretty high. So please be aware when you're uploading to follow these requirements. In addition,
And I will say that, we're trying to just, thanks, Madeline. We're just trying to, give you some guidelines that we feel like make you look good on all these different partner experiences. So we've spoken with a lot of these platforms and tried to understand what some of those requirements were and kind of what's the best, lowest common denominator, so that when we pass your logo, it shows up well, on a small screen, on a larger screen, and so on. So these may seem real specific, but there's a reason behind the madness. It's just to try to make it easier for you to do it once and then have it show up across these experiences in a way that makes sense. So we appreciate your patience with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if for some reason you guys don't have this information, you can always check these boxes here that you don't have a logo, you don't have a tagline, you don't have a website. So that is also an option if you were freaking out, like, oh my gosh, they need my logo. If you don't have one, you don't have to worry. Okay, mission statement. Also very important. This definitely shows up on Amazon Smile and a lot of other places as well, including Facebook. We're looking for something very brief. 1 to 2 sentences. We use about 200 characters. That's pretty perfect. If you have a longer mission statement, that's actually going to go in another section that we'll talk about. So keep this very short and sweet. Okay, then your programs. This does get sent to Amazon Smile. What you're going to want to do is click Edit Program Information to start adding a program. You have a program name, a quick description. We're looking for about 1 to 2 short paragraphs, a target population served. You definitely want to make sure that this is correct. So, go ahead, expand the menu, check out your different options. You can do another population served, a budget, and then of course, this is really fun, you can specify exactly the area served. So you have up to 5 areas that you can choose from. We do counties, cities, states, and on the international level, countries. Okay. We usually recommend adding your top 3 to 5 programs. If you have more than that, try and condense them into larger groups. Here you can see we've done that here. We have a lot of different kind of pieces into one program. And then, just going down here, we end up with categorization. So these are quick keywords. These are kind of 5 to 6 keywords about your organization and your work, and then how you categorize yourself. So these are self-reported. You choose them yourself. It's a quick code and subcode. Okay. That's about all the time we have for bronze. I'm going to go through silver very briefly here, but of course, please remember we do have that whole list of fields available to you, so you can come back and take a look at all of those. So the silver seal is basic financials. You have 2 options here. Number 1, you can upload at least 1 audited financial statement, or if you don't have an audit, you can manually fill out some basic financial fields. So yet again, you do not have to have an audit. If you do, that's great. All you have to do is upload it. If you do not, you can manually enter this information. So you can see here, we have audits all the way back to 2008. That is fantastic. And we've actually gone above and beyond. We've done both sections. We've also manually filled in our information. So what you're going to need for that, is your Form 990 or any kind of recent financial reporting that you've done. We're looking for your fiscal year. We're looking for your revenue, so really just contributions, gifts, and grants, and total revenue. We're looking at your expenses, program administration, and total expenses, and your assets, liabilities, and then net assets and fund balance. So it's not crazy.
The reason we're going into it is partly because, as Madeline mentioned, that in order to get to gold and platinum, which is what we want to hit next, you do need to earn silver. So we wanted to make sure to share that with you. And then the other thing I will note is, even though GuideStar has uploaded a number of audited financial statements over time, really to earn your 2018 silver seal, you need your latest available financials, which are likely your 2017 financials. So, think about, you don't need to dig up many past statements, but your latest available is what you need in order to earn your kind of current silver seal of transparency. And then Madeline, I'm noticing the time, and I do want to make sure we get to some questions. So let's maybe head to gold next.
Okay, thank you, Eva. Got to keep me on track. I'll talk forever. Okay, so gold is even easier to complete than silver. That is, if you have a grant application handy or strategic planning document, or maybe even appeal to donor, all of those documents already have the information you need. So these are 5 short answer questions about your long-term goals and strategies. So starting off, there is an optional section here. This is, how do you summarize the need or problem that your organization is working to address? Keep it brief. 1 to 2 sentences is totally fine. A paragraph is fine. But we really want you to focus on the 5 charting impact questions here. So I'm going to very briefly go through them. A lot, it's going to look very familiar if you guys have filled out a lot of grant applications recently, but just know we're not looking for an essay. We're looking for 3 to 4 very, very short paragraphs. Yeah, here we go. So it's, what is your organization aiming to accomplish? What are your strategies for making this happen? What are your capabilities for doing this? How will your organization know if you're making progress? So we're actually looking for kind of some key metrics. So for ours, you can see here, we want to track the number of organizations that share information with us. And you want to give kind of a longer term goal. So we say by the end of 2018, we want to hit X amount. So you kind of want to give your goal here. Okay. And then progress, what have you accomplished so far and what's next? So this is really important because it shows people, first of all, what you've done, and second of all, where you're going. Eva, anything to add here?
No, I think that's great, Madeline. Thank you.
Okay, and I do apologize. I am kind of cruising through these sections here because I do want to make room for questions. So yeah, just note, grab a recent grant application here and try and mush that information into these different sections. Okay. And also we do have,
I think sorry, Madeline. I will just add the nuance again. There's a reason behind the madness, right? We recognize that this is a constrained space, but we want you to put yourself a little bit in the shoes of a donor or a stakeholder who might be looking at it, and they're just not going to hang with you if you are providing pages and pages of information. They're really looking for condensed information. And so that's the reason behind some of the limits on this interface. And so I would really urge you to think about kind of the brevity of your materials, making them, clear and making them consumable by someone who doesn't know your organization intimately. So simple is better than more complicated. I recognize this can be stressful when you're working with longer materials, but it's in service of really highlighting your organization to potential stakeholders. And thanks, Madeline. I see you're moving on to platinum, so let's talk a little bit about that.
I did. I snuck by here. Thank you, Eva. So when you first go into the platinum section, you have an option to use the GuideStar Common Results Catalog, which actually Jasmine works on a great deal and can tell you a lot more about in another webinar, not today. I have included this as a handout. You will get it in the follow-up email as well, but it is a giant list of metrics that you can use that's already in our system. Fun fact, 70% of metrics that are published on profiles do come from this catalog, so it is likely that you will find one that you can use. So what you're going to do is you'll come here, you can download the PDF, or you can go straight to the next step, which is to search for metrics. So if you find a metric you like, you can use our keyword search here. You can filter using these, service strategies and categories on the left, and you'll see something come up here. So if I wanted to put in animal, I could do that. I can click it right here and it will show up at the bottom. If for some reason you aren't seeing a metric that you enjoy, you can create your own. We just ask that you stick to this very common format. It's in the common results catalog. You can see this format. It's very linear. It's, number of blank who blank, percent of children that continue on to higher education. Please make sure that it does follow this format and that you check this box. You understand that it might not be comparable to others in the field, and then you'll click Add Metric. Okay, to earn a platinum seal is very, very easy. You actually only need one metric with 1 year's worth of data, and it has to be from 2017, so a recent year's worth of data. However, we recommend that you add your top 3 to 5 metrics and give each one 3 to 5 years worth of data. That way you have the breadth and depth of data. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and continue. Yet again, I know I'm cruising through this pretty fast due to time, but I do want to get to your questions. So you're going to scroll down, you're going to find your metric, and you're going to click Add Details. Then what you're going to do from there is you're going to go ahead and put a number into 2017. Technically, that's all you need to do to earn platinum, this 2017 data with one metric. However, like I said, we want you to fill in these years as many as possible. You can add a year all the way back to the year 2000. We also want you to add context. Each and every metric should have a context note to maybe explain the metric, explain the data. Maybe you had a down year, maybe you had a really high year. Really give people context for what this data is saying. You can also tie it to a program. This will be from the bronze seal. You can choose a population served. I believe you can choose up to 3. And then finally, you want to click Yes, Display. This will display it on your profile and earn you the platinum seal. If not, you can click No, Do Not Display. I'm actually going to do that right now so that this does not show up. You can also display it, but note it's no longer tracked. That will not earn you a platinum seal because it is older data, but we still highly recommend showing it if it's fantastic. Then you go ahead and click Save. Yeah, Eva?
Wonderful. And since this is Jasmine.
Oh, hi.
We have you in the display mode. I think it would be great if we could take some of the questions that involve showing folks some things.
Yeah.
So one of the questions a question that we've gotten quite a bit is about the donate button. So can you share kind of how folks activate that and what that looks like?
Yes, and actually you just read my mind. I was about to go there. Thank you. So this is also the final step. I'm going to put these two together. So whenever you make changes to your profile and you save all of your work, you've seen me kind of press save throughout the different sections. You want to confirm and publish them. So you're going to click confirm and publish. You might also see a little kind of red button to follow you around that says change published or publish changes now. You can also click that too. It'll bring you here. This is your final page. So what you're going to do is you're going to click, I certify I am who I say I am, I represent this organization, etc. Last but not least, you come to your donation permissions. So very, very important. If you want your information to go to our partners, this button needs to be on. Up next, this is how, you add a donate button to your profile. First of all, you have to earn a bronze seal of transparency in order for this button to even show up. And I'm going to reiterate that. You have to have a bronze seal in order to even see this option, and then you can check this on. Then you will have a donate button on your profile. So we went through that bronze section. Those are all the different fields required to, be able to add this donate button. And then what you're going to do is click publish now.
That's wonderful. And are there charges that are associated with the donate button?
So GuideStar actually waives all fees. Our donation processor, Network for Good, they do take a percentage out of the donation. I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think it's 4.75%, I do believe. but you can always check in the terms of use for that exact amount and visit Network for Good as well.
Wonderful. While you're displaying, some folks have some questions around shifting contact information, shifting their doing business as name. Can you just give a brief overview of where that happens?
You got it. So can you say those fields again? They're looking for what in particular?
So email, DBA, and
Perfect.
address.
Okay, so you're going to look for names and contacts. So it's the very first field in bronze. That will include your organization's name, your DBA, as well as your primary contacts. You can see that here. And then I believe the second option, I'm sorry, what was it again, Jasmine?
So what about the DBA? So that's there. And then what about the public-facing email address?
Oh, yeah. So that's under primary contact, which is right here.
Wonderful. And then we've got a pretty specific question around this. Do you have to have a contact, a fundraising contact entered there?
Good question. No, you don't.
So you see that because there isn't the little red star. So all the required fields that you need, all the fields that are required in order to earn a seal are marked with the red star. I know it's a little subtle, but that's the idea. And so we're trying to strike a balance between, making it reasonable and easy to do and giving organizations the flexibility to talk about themselves and the work in the way that meets their needs. So you see both these required fields, which are needed and validated for the seal. So if they're absent, you don't get a seal. That's really the level of validation. And then you see a number of kind of optional fields which you can choose to provide, or maybe don't make sense for your organization and you don't need to provide. I will say that Madeline, I think, isn't able to show this because our, GuideStar's profile that she's demonstrating is pretty complete. But as you go through the bronze section, and if you click save or continue to the next one, there will likely be a message that pops up if you missed something. So if there's a required field that's missing, you will get a modal, a little, box that pops up that says, hey, these are some missing fields. So we do try to alert you to things that, you maybe inadvertently missed as you go along. And then Madeline also mentioned that helpful reference. There's a PDF that's, I think, 2 or 3 pages that just tells you explicitly what some of the required fields are in each section. So you can use it as a little bit of a checklist if you're like me and like to have a little piece of paper and not just a screen. So it gives you a good overview.
Thanks, Eva, and thanks, Jasmine. I also want to call out, this is exactly where the save button is. It's always at the bottom of each section. So you can go ahead and click that and it will save all of your good work.
I want to shift us to some of the questions around our partners and the ways that your data is flowing to them. First, where should a person go if they're having trouble with their Facebook, setting up their Facebook fundraiser or anything like that? What are the ways that GuideStar interacts with Facebook in that way?
That's a great question. So for Facebook fundraisers, Facebook should be your first port of call because GuideStar really doesn't deal with any of the specific donations or money flowing using your Facebook fundraiser. The way that Facebook uses GuideStar information is first, they use it to make sure that the organizations that are starting fundraisers are actual 501c3 nonprofits and have been verified with the IRS. And so they're relying on us on that validation piece. And then a little bit of the basic info that you saw and a link to the profile. Again, that's for donors who might want more information. But in this case, I would say, please go to the Facebook kind of help center. I'm sure they have a lot of materials or frequently asked questions about the fundraiser. If you're real stuck and they're not responding, then let us know, and we'll do our best to get in touch with, a human being at Facebook that we work with regularly to see what might be going on in your particular case. So we'll do our best to help, but they really are the ones who are running the show on the fundraiser side.
Great. And I'm going to move us to Amazon Smile. So first, what's the cadence around how information is shared with Amazon Smile and how long that takes?
No, that's a really good question, Jasmine. So I think when people go online and use a website, they expect things to be instant, right? You want the information to appear. And I will say that as someone who, didn't know the ins and outs of all of these relationships and platforms, that's what I expected. But the fact is, it does take some time. So, for the information that you update using what we just showed you to appear on GuideStar is pretty quick. It's our website, and we make the quick update, within minutes of after you have published. You do need to publish. I know it's kind of old-fashioned, but you do need to publish because we do have a lot of people drafting information or multiple people working on it. And so that's a step that basically says, yes, I'm ready to make it public. I also will say that in this case, you can publish again. So if you made a mistake, don't worry about it. You can publish again and fix it. In terms of Amazon Smile, they get a data set from GuideStar. So you provide the info, we store it, and then we send them a data set, and that happens on a monthly cadence. And so they don't update right away when you updated GuideStar. They update on a roughly monthly cadence. And that's why we have tried to give you that November 11th deadline in time for an update to, get completed in time for the GivingTuesday deadline specifically. So Amazon is, I think, monthly.
Great. And another Amazon question is around strategy. So how might either of you recommend that people encourage their constituents to use Amazon Smile, or what are some other creative ways to be able to reap those benefits?
That's a good question. I think, I would think about this as a little bit of a bonus fundraising strategy. I mean, the fact is Amazon Smile, really it's a very small percentage of the amount that goes to a particular nonprofit. I think it can add up over time, but it's pretty small. So I would say that, you should certainly make them aware of the opportunity. If you're already shopping with Amazon, there's a way to support us, hopefully your favorite nonprofit. You should know that Amazon Smile does this, and you can easily find us in that experience. And by the way, you're supporting us using the everyday kind of shopping that you're doing, which is a nice bonus. So probably that's the way I would highlight this opportunity to folks. But because it's such a small percentage, I wouldn't necessarily make this the focus of your fundraising, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. The other thing that I'll add is that some folks use their own Amazon Smile to buy their own supplies. So it's a way of kind of giving yourself back a little cashback bonus. I want to end with, we have a couple of questions from new organizations. And how can a brand new organization that's not yet a year old take advantage of some of the offerings from GuideStar? Can you get to silver? Can you get to platinum? What does it look like if you can't?
That's a good point. So I think that we have this value around making this accessible to all types of organizations, large or small. You will notice that, the Gates Foundation has the same amount of real estate on GuideStar as a small nonprofit. I mean, that's the way it's structured to kind of present a more equal footing. As a newer organization, so there's a number of kind of little pieces of flexibility built in. So if you don't yet have a logo, Madeline highlighted the fact that you can say you just don't have one at this time. That in silver, you can enter your current, to-date financials, even though they may not be a full fiscal year. And I think there's a section that says, notes from the nonprofit within the GuideStar experience, where you can provide a little bit of the nuance, like we're a recently formed nonprofit, our financials are partial, we're still, we're beginning our operations. So there's a way to use some of the kind of context or open text fields to add a little bit of nuance. And otherwise, we have tried to make it flexible for newer organizations if they don't have all the materials all together.
Okay, so I'm going to close up Q&A. Thank you all so much for your questions. If we didn't answer them on this webinar, we'll absolutely follow up with you and make sure that we get those questions answered. So let's just talk about some next steps. So if you have any questions, please feel free to visit help.guidestar.org, where we are happy to share more information. There's things like user guides, etc. And I also want to point you to some great webinars that are coming up. So Network for Good, who is our donation button partner, is offering a webinar called The Procrastinator's Guide to GivingTuesday. So it's, just getting in just before it's time, making sure that you've got that. And then on Wednesday, November 14th, please feel free to join us for GuideStar's quarterly impact call, where we share kind of how we're moving toward our own goals and what that looks like. And with that, I will close it out. Thank you all so much for joining us.
It has been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.